Nobody is too busy to type a full sentence. We live in an era where people scroll through endless social media feeds while waiting for an elevator, double-tap photos while waiting for coffee, and text while walking down a crowded street. We have turned connectivity into a reflex. Yet, you sit there staring at a screen, waiting for hours just to receive a single, isolated word. A blunt okay, a cold yeah, or worse, just a solitary period. You tell yourself they are overwhelmed at work. You tell yourself their battery is dying, or that they are simply bad at texting. You invent 1,000 gentle alibis to shield yourself from the freezing draft of their indifference. But deep down, in that quiet, honest corner of your mind, you already know the truth. They aren't busy. They are deliberately crafting a wall out of brevity. They are using short words to build a long, silent exit. It is the most cowardly form of communication ever invented, using a lack of effort to force someone else to make the painful decision to leave. Think about how this connection started. Go back to the beginning of the chat history, back when the digital ink was fresh and burning with mutual curiosity. The paragraphs were long, messy, and urgent. They flooded the screen without layout or care. There were strings of exclamation marks, endless emojis, and late-night rants that stretched into the early hours of the morning. Back then, time didn't exist. If they were in a meeting, they would sneak a text under the table. If they were hanging out with friends, they would step outside just to send a voice note. The responses were instantaneous, a rapid-fire tennis match of thoughts, validation, and shared laughter. There was a desperate hunger to be known and to know you. That wasn't because they had more free time back then. Their jobs were just as demanding, their lives were just as complicated, and their days still had only 24 hours. The only variable that changed was their desire. When someone wants you in their life, language expands to fill the space. They will tell you about the mundane sandwich they ate for lunch, the annoying song playing in the grocery store, or a random thought they had while crossing the street. But then, the temperature drops. The shift is rarely an explosion. It is a slow, agonizing leak. The paragraphs shrink into sentences. The sentences dissolve into phrases. The phrases evaporate into single words. The emojis vanish, taking the warmth of the conversation with them. You start to notice the arrival of the period. In digital communication, a period at the end of a single-word reply isn't just correct grammar, it is a punctuation mark acting as a physical break. It is a dead end. It says, do not cross this line. You send a vibrant, 3-paragraph update about a major breakthrough at your job, pouring out your excitement, your nerves, and your relief. You press send, and you watch the screen. The typing bubbles appear. They dance for a second, giving you a sudden surge of hope, and then they vanish. 10 minutes later, the reply arrives. Nice. That is it. Just 4 letters and a crushing weight that drops into the pit of your stomach. You try to keep the momentum going. You ask an open-ended question, practically begging for an entry point back into their mind. You get a cool. You try again the next day, and you get an awe. This is the psychological warfare of the modern ghost. They don't have the spine to tell you that the spark is dead. They don't want to deal with the heavy, uncomfortable burden of a real breakup conversation. They don't want to be the bad guy who says, I don't care about your day anymore. So instead, they put the responsibility on your shoulders. They treat you with such systematic, calculated coldness that the conversation becomes an exhausting chore for you to maintain. They turn texting them into an act of pulling teeth. It is a passive-aggressive strategy designed to make you feel like you are the dramatic one, the needy one, the one who is overthinking everything. They reduce their input to absolute zero, waiting patiently for your pride to finally kick in. They want you to get tired of the one-sided effort. They want you to look at the screen, feel the sharp sting of humiliation, and finally stop typing altogether. And when you finally do stop, they can wash their hands of the guilt. They can comfort themselves with the lie that the relationship just naturally drifted apart. We live in a culture that romanticizes mixed signals, but the truth is entirely unmixed. Mixed signals are just a polite euphemism for a no. When someone is genuinely into you, you never have to become a detective to decode their punctuation. You never have to zoom in on a timestamp to calculate if 4 hours is an acceptable delay for a response. You never have to ask your closest friends to analyze a screenshot of a 2-word text to find a hidden layer of affection that simply isn't there. The moment you find yourself auditing a conversation like a tax collector, looking for crumbs of interest, the relationship is already bankrupt. The cocklock, that dry, abrasive shortness, is not a personality trait. It is a deliberate choice. It is a tactical withdrawal of warmth. They're actively rationing their energy, ensuring that you receive the absolute bare minimum required to keep you on life support, or better yet, to make you pull the plug yourself. It takes a tremendous amount of emotional energy to admit this to yourself. It is much easier to cling to the illusion of their busy schedule because the alternative forces you to confront a brutal truth. You are simply not a priority. You are an option they check when they are bored, an afterthought buried beneath a pile of things they actually care about. They have time to view your social media stories, time to post their own updates, and time to reply to others, but their energy miraculously depletes the moment your name pops up on their screen. Stop romanticizing their silence. Stop translating their neglect into a busy calendar. A person's phone is practically glued to their palm from the moment they wake up to the moment they close their eyes. If they wanted to type a real reply, they would. The realization hits you not like a sudden thunderstorm, but like the quiet, heavy frost of an early morning. You look at the screen, seeing your long, colorful blocks of text met by a vertical wall of gray, single-word answers. The contrast is embarrassing. You realize you have been fighting a war by yourself, defending a fortress that the other person abandoned weeks ago. The pain of letting go is sharp, but the humiliation of staying and begging for scraps of attention is a dull, chronic ache that erodes your self-respect. You finally close the app. You delete the draft of the message you spent 20 minutes editing just to make it sound casual. You realize that their brevity was never a puzzle for you to solve. It was a clear, unambiguous map showing you where the exit door is. You finally take the hint. You stop typing, you step away from the screen, and you let the silence have the final word. You spent hours analyzing their missing words. They didn't spend a second thinking about yours.